My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained. And welcome, everybody. Today we have the She Squatchers, Jen and Tammy. How you guys doing?
Great. Thanks for having us, guys.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you again.
My co-host and father, Todd Parsons.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Well, yeah, it's been, I guess I haven't talked to y'all since the UP expedition, but I know y'all had a pretty busy schedule after that, didn't you?
And before that.
Well, but I was looking, it looked like y'all had several conferences that you went to since then.
Well, what did we do? Was it
Tennessee.
five events, 6 weeks?
Yes, that was crazy.
Yeah.
How did the Tennessee one go? It looked like it was a good one from the pictures I saw.
It was great. They sold out at 2,000.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. They had told us to come early, super early, so
Yeah.
that we could avoid the crowd that would be by the door to get in. And we don't show up like super early usually. We roll up and Tammy pulls up to the side door and Jenna and I jump out with our rolling bags. And there is a line literally wrapping around this convention center with 2,000 people.
Wow.
They're like, look, it's the She Squatchers. I'm like, run, Jenna.
That's funny. Was it a 2-day event or?
No, it was one day. And then,
1 day? Okay.
then they did have a big VIP dinner the night before.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was pretty awesome too. So, we had all these really nice backdrops for us to stand in front of to take pictures with people. And
Oh, that's awesome.
at the VIP, yeah, that was pretty fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'll have to try to go to that next year.
What did y'all think of the Michigan Bigfoot Conference?
Oh, we had a great time. We loved everybody there. Yeah. Tammy?
Yeah, I was just blown away. It was so much fun. It was so much fun, being with everybody, learning everything, and hanging out with everybody. The camaraderie was excellent. Everybody laughed and had a great time. There was like no egos involved, and it was amazing. And I was so sad that we had to leave to go to Tennessee. I mean, we love Tennessee and we had a great time at Tennessee, but we really wanted to stay for the entire thing.
Did.
No.
And well, they were asking you about the conference, Tammy.
Oh, I was talking about the expedition, not the conference. The conference was good too. The conference was good too.
It was a good build-up to the expedition.
Yes.
Yes, it was. It definitely was.
Yeah.
And
I got to meet a few people I didn't know. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed meeting Jason Kinsey for the first time.
Oh, he's so funny.
He's a
Jen
character.
kind of built me up for it.
He's a character. He's funny.
Yeah.
He's
is.
funny.
Yeah.
We had worked with him online before, but we hadn't met him in person yet, so we were really excited to meet him.
Yeah. He's a
Well,
good guy.
Yeah. I haven't talked to y'all since the expedition, and I left a little early, so I didn't really get to find out what all you guys did. The rest, I was out that one night but y'all went and did something else, I think. But I hadn't heard what all y'all were up to.
Now, weren't you still there with the RVs, or not the RVs, the four-wheelers and stuff? You guys went out that one night?
We went out that first night, and then I left the next day, and I think the team went out the next night.
I left right before you guys started packing up to go out that first night.
Okay,
So
I remember.
I missed that too. I was there when you and your wife and we were all walking out in the woods, and we found the structures and things that Jason had found, and then we found the path and everything. That was the last time that I was there, and then I had to leave to go to the airport.
Yeah, I remember now. And Jen, you stayed longer though, right?
No, Jenna and I left
Oh, you
early
left
that.
before Tammy then.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we had to get
Oh,
back.
see,
We
I
were
lost.
driving.
I've slept
We,
since then.
we were driving. We were driving back to North Dakota, so it was a
Yeah.
longer for us to get back. So we had to leave early in the morning, and we had to get back for our flight to catch our flight to Tennessee. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah, so it was a good trip though. I really enjoyed it and wish I could have stayed longer.
I know. I'd like to get back up there. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I had a hard time leaving the next day. We had so much activity that first night that man, I sure wanted to stay that second night,
See,
but
that's exactly how I felt. I was like,
it turned out to be a great night that night too. You know,
mhm.
but
Absolutely.
Next time, I want to stay for the whole thing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But
Well, we squeezed it in there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
well, what y'all think of some of the evidence that we saw up there?
Well, definitely I was enjoying I'm still enjoying going through the video because I have
Yeah.
tons of videos still to go through
Okay.
because I had what did I have 3 or 4 cameras of mine
Yeah.
and then I was just handing them to people. So I still haven't looked at all the videos from everybody yet. So because they just handed me the camera back when they were done with it. So I don't
Yeah.
know what's on
Yeah.
there, but I'm still going through the videos. That takes time when you
Oh
have
yeah.
multiple.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Robert Kreider's still going through his stuff.
yeah, it's a lot
Yeah. I
to
bet.
look.
I bet he is.
Dave is too. I know there's a lot of video that needs to be going through.
At. Yeah. So, and I'm trying to pick and choose what to upload to our YouTube channel. And I know we've had comments from people before that they really enjoy it when we just upload everything that we can so they can
Yeah.
feel like they're coming along with us.
Yeah.
And people like to see if they can see anything in the background that maybe we miss. And that's kind of fun for people to do that too. So,
I like that too. Yeah, better. The more eyes you have on it, the better.
right?
Absolutely. It's
Right?
easy,
And there's
easy to miss stuff.
lots of people would like to be out there doing that, but can't. So maybe this is a way for them to come along.
Right.
But
No. True.
but then I had somebody say, well, you have all these clips out there. Why don't you put them into one thing? Well, I'm not an editor. I do not know how to edit videos. I just plop it up there. There it is. So,
Well,
and
Yes.
I think for me, if I see a video that's super long, I don't have the patience to watch it. So I usually don't even start watching it. But
yeah.
if I see a video is shorter, I'm like, oh, I can spare a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to go through a little my. I didn't have much. Most of my video was on Jason's SD card, so he ended up with most of my video.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, but I have a small SD card. I think I had a few things on there, but I haven't gone through it yet. I need to go through that. But
Okay.
most of it ended up on Jason's SD card.
I have tons of video of you.
Oh, do you?
I do. And a lot of it is already on YouTube, so you could check it out on
Oh,
our on
yeah.
our on our
Go and take a
channel,
look.
She Squatchers. She Squatchers official on there. We've got lots of Todd.
Yeah,
Come get your Todd.
I will check it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask Jason send me some of that stuff that I took on his card too.
He's
But
really good about that. He'll have no problem giving you credit and giving you,
yeah,
footage and stuff like that. So
yeah, I've got to get back working. He's got me doing a song
yeah,
for his.
how's that going?
Well, since I had COVID the last 2 weeks, so I just kind of stopped doing everything, and I hadn't felt like it. So, and I went through one section, but then he wanted to add some words to it, so I have to redo some of it, which is fine. It's just I've got to redo some of that. So I'm gonna try to get going back on that tomorrow. It's a lot of work.
Jen and Jenna had actually already left when we were discussing that. Jason wants there to be a song to go with his She Squatch, or not She Squatchers. I'm making it all about me. The Looking for Sasquatch
Yeah,
3 that he's putting out. He wants him to make a song for it. So,
Yes.
including, lots of information and people and stuff like that in it. So,
Yeah, and I had him come up with some lyrics because he wanted me to write it. I said, "Look, you come up because this is your deal. Kind of give me some ideas. Come up with the lyrics." So he came up with the lyrics. Then I took his lyrics and I reworded stuff to fit the structure for the song. So But there's a few more items we discussed, so I'm gonna go back and I'm probably gonna have to add another verse. So I'm gonna have to, or another course. Sorry, I'm gonna have to probably add another course. It's gonna make it a little longer than normal, which is fine. It's just I've got to go back and add everything because you got to have a root. You got to lay a root down with the piano. So you got to lay everything down with the root and then go back and work around it. So now I've got to extend that first section. So once I'm gonna try to get that done tomorrow so that at least I can start because I've got to send out the files I've got several musicians that are gonna be playing on it. So I've got to send out the files to the other studios and all that. So
after you get it all recorded, I think that the next time we all meet up for an expedition, we should have Jason shoot a music video for the song. How awesome would that be?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Oh, I'm sure he'd be game too. He would probably love to do that.
That would be fun. I saw that slow motion video that he did with you guys walking through the fog.
Yeah.
Was the fog actually there, or was that an effect?
I don't remember the fog. I don't think.
I think those were smoke bombs.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then it wasn't the one I was on because we didn't have anything when I went. I know there's one. There's one in slow motion. I was with them that we did during the day, but maybe he had that. Maybe he added something on the digital.
Yeah, wasn't that the one that Jenna and I were also in? Was the one with you during the day? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It was Deanna and y'all and me and I. Yeah.
Yeah, because I kept trying to push Deanna in front of me so she could get into the video. And she's like, "No, stop it!"
No, I don't think I even saw her on any of it.
She was trying to hide.
Yeah. Is that the same one? Did he add smoke to those then? Is that the one that shows smoke, or was there something different?
No, he did one because of my ankle. We ended up going to the hospital. Me, Jason, and Dave, and Dave's niece, and they were selling the fireworks around that time, and he stopped and got some smoke bombs, and I think he filmed the guys on the last day walking through.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was like, wow, that's a nice effect. I wonder what kind of digital effect that is.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah. We'll bring smoke bombs next time.
Yeah, so we interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about his sighting and all that. That was interesting. Him and Blake had that. That was a pretty good, I thought, very good sighting. They
very
had that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was neat. I don't know how we looked out and got that area because I mean, we just, Robert sent that drone out because he was looking for old growth. So then we took the ATVs. Joshua and me, and I forget who else took the ATVs and went to find that old growth. Yeah, Kevin, and to try to find that old growth that he found on the drone. And then we found a section. We found an area kind of road. It was off the main, well, if you want to quote main road, but it was off that main dirt road. And we thought, man, this might be a good area. And man, we had all that activity that first night, and the screams that we heard that night were amazing. I mean, they were really good. I mean, there was no getting that confused with something else.
That's awesome.
And, the recordings don't never do it justice. The recording Robert put out there, it really doesn't do it justice because I had the parabolic on when that happened, I believe. I mean, it was they were good screams. Yeah. And I was like, man, how did we end up getting this lucky? I mean, the first night out, we pick a place and here we are. Either we were just lucky or there's just a lot of them out in that area, Yeah,
when we were walking out behind that camp and stuff, and I found that path and we found the footprints and everything back out there when we were just walking around and all those structures, I was like, why were we not remote viewing this area? Why were we remote viewing over there? Yeah. Because there's just so much stuff.
You're talking back behind where we were staying back there? Yeah.
Tons of stuff back there. I would like to go back to that area too, because I think that we could find a lot more stuff back there if we had more time.
Yeah. Now I had heard, and I don't know, Josh, maybe more, but that I think that night we were out, that there was some of the people who were hanging around the fire around the house, and that some things got thrown into the campground or to where they were sitting. Did you hear something about that?
That might have been Ernie and Michelle. I know they were doing a lot of stuff with Adam. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to them a lot. I know they've been busy.
Well, supposedly they had some things chunked right in the middle of the fire area there that night. You know,
Wow.
well, there's one. Did you see the one tree break right behind the Joshua's camper back over there? There was a tree break right there on the edge of the camp, and there was a story. I didn't hear the story to the end of the trip, but apparently the owner of that place where y'all stayed, um, I think him and his dog were sitting out there around the fire that night and heard something crashing around on the edge of the woods, and it was loud enough. They heard the big pop, and they went in the house. It spooked them a little bit. They went in the house, came out the next day, and there's a tree back there that's about 8 foot up. It's probably, I don't know, 3 inch, 4 inch diameter tree that was twisted and broke
Wow.
right behind the house over there, behind where he was staying. But
That's awesome.
I didn't hear about it till later. So I guess apparently they're getting a lot of activity up there near the homes and stuff, or at least some.
Yeah, there was so much stuff out there. There's no way that they couldn't be like
Yeah.
experiencing stuff all the time out there.
I know. I'd be sitting outside every night.
hmm
Mosquitoes were awful, though. They were just awful.
Yeah.
Like, they were so bad the mosquito spray wasn't even denting.
hmm
But yeah, that was some interesting stuff. So do y'all have any field stuff coming up?
Well, we're going to Marion, North Carolina. When are we going there?
Isn't it the 16th, 17th, 18th?
18th, yeah. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to be in North Carolina. Um,
That'd be neat.
I'm flying in and Tammy's picking me up.
Okay.
And then we're going to go in early and see what we can find around there. So,
Awesome.
Is that
Yeah.
a national forest or?
I haven't looked at the area so much yet, but
Okay.
I'm hoping that the event organizers will point us in the right direction
Oh,
of
okay.
what public lands we're able to go to.
Okay.
So, but the festival is like they draw like 20 to 40,000 people
Oh, okay.
at this festival. So, it's a 2-day event. It's the 17th and 18th, I believe. And so yeah, we're gonna go in early and look around. We were in North Carolina in June with the group of us drove down there from Tammy's place in Virginia, and
Okay.
we spent some time around Littleton, North Carolina, looking at the Medoc National Forest area.
Okay.
And then we looked at another area that wasn't a national. I'm not exactly sure what that place was called, but
Gotcha.
Darby Orcutt had shown us that and wanted us to come out there and look at that area out there. So
Okay. Neat.
yeah.
Is that a kind of mountainous terrain?
I don't. Not right there,
Kinda.
was it? It was hilly.
Or
It was
big hills, right? Yeah.
Yes, big hills, not really mountains.
Yeah.
We've been to Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
know we know
Me
what
too.
mountains look like.
Me and Josh have hiked Mount St. Helens.
Oh my
Oh, wow.
goodness. How was
Yeah.
that?
That was beautiful.
That was awesome. That was probably one of the best hikes I've been on. It was neat. We hiked to the that went into the south face of the volcano. Took about a half a day.
The trail we went on went towards 8 Canyon, didn't it? Or 8 Cave.
Well, it was on that side. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly where 8 Cave. I don't know exactly where 8 Canyon is, but yeah, it was. We hiked to the south face of it. It was pretty neat. That's beautiful country.
I haven't hiked that, but I did climb Vesuvius in Italy.
Oh, neat. That's neat.
It was fun. It was nice.
I bet it was. But yeah, I want to try to get back up to Washington and Oregon and all that. I'd love to do some more hiking around Rainier as well, or get up there and looking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were trying to get out there.
Yeah.
We had 2 more events this year scheduled for October and November, but it looks like both of them are being pushed into next year.
Oh, okay.
And they were both
COVID
in
numbers.
Washington.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
both of them.
Yeah,
were
the
in
Mothman
Washington.
Festival was just canceled, too.
I heard that. That's too bad,
Yeah, I planned
but-
on going. That's sad.
Oh, you were gonna go?
Yeah.
How far away is that for you?
I think it was 5 or 6 hours. It wasn't bad.
Really? That's that
I think
close.
so. I could be wrong. I'd have to look. It wasn't because I've driven to Texas, which is like 12, 13 hours for us, into Colorado, which is further.
Yeah.
So I'd have to look. It doesn't seem far to me, but it might seem far to somebody else.
Oh, not me. I used to do road trips every single year from Minnesota down to Illinois, over to Missouri, back up, all the time.
I'm gonna try to make the whole Nubby conference in October in Oklahoma, but they haven't canceled it yet. Hopefully, they won't have to. But
Heard that's
Right.
a really good conference. I've heard that so much.
whole Nubby, yeah. So I've been on two expeditions up in whole Nubby. Actually, one both at the location where the conference happens, back behind the conference. It's a very active area, and so one of the researchers that I go out with, he works the conference every year, and um, it's held on the grounds at a church camp there, and so and yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the even the minister, they have a lot of weird stuff that happens on the property because they'll come up onto the property, and I'm sure when it's real busy like that, they don't come around. But I mean, they have dorms there. Some like Deanna and I went the first time we went, we stayed in one of the dorms there, and I think week before the researchers that had used that dorm had one looking through the window at them.
Nice.
Yeah, right there, right in the middle of the church camp. But you just go, we can go back behind the church camp there, and just go back there and hang out, build a fire, and they come down from that big hill. They call it mountains, but big hill. They'll come down from the hills just to see what's going on, and usually we'll have them coming around us. I mean, every time I've been out there, we've had them come around us. It's
Now I
a
really want to go.
no, it's a good area.
I really think that they're curious, when somebody's out there, what are they doing?
Yeah.
They're getting nosy.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think so too. And they're and what's funny, they're very docile. There's no you don't hear much about aggressive ones in that area, but if you I don't you've heard this. Have you ever heard the about the siege of Honubi? They call it, about the guy that shot one. Um, he lived up there out of Honubi, and he had one that was raiding his where he was keeping his deer meat, and they were coming up the house. He ended up shooting one, and it wasn't that far from where we go out. So I'm sure some of them coming around are probably related to that one, And I'm surprised that they're not more aggressive, but they're not. They're very docile, and they're not very vocal. You'll get glimpses of them even at night. We get their eyes shine and stuff. They'll come around and just kind of watch, just come out and watch you. Um, but I mean, I've heard them do some of their owl sounds where they try to, they're faking owl. I've heard that a couple of times, but other than that, they're pretty quiet. But
I actually caught one of those where it sounded like an owl. It sounded like a barred owl,
yeah,
but it didn't sound exactly like a barred owl either. So I had a few different recordings of it from different devices. And
yeah,
I had David Ellis listen to it when we met him out in Washington State at the
yeah,
Sasquatch Summit. And the first recording he listened to, he's like, "Yeah, that's an owl." And I'm like, "Yeah, it does sound like an owl. Listen to this one." And it was just from a different device, same sound.
yeah,
And he's like, "Wait a minute, that doesn't sound exactly like an owl." I'm
yeah,
like, "See, that's what I was thinking
yeah.
too."
Well, let me ask you: is what you notice? Is it at the tail end? When the owl does the second time around, when they do that and hold out, they do that little sound that holds out a little longer the second time around. There's like a warble to their voice. If it's a real owl, they have like a warble. It's almost like a distorted kind of warble, uh, vibrato, almost like I've noticed. And the ones that I don't think are real, they don't have that. I don't hear that vibrato or that little warble sound at the end. I think that's what's a dead giveaway on a lot of them.
And it was way too loud.
Yeah,
I grew up in the woods of Minnesota in the valley.
yeah,
I've been around outside all the time. And I'd never heard an owl that loud
That
before,
loud.
ever,
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
ever. I mean, it echoed. It was
Was it
so
daytime?
loud. No, it was night.
Oh, it was
It was
night.
night, but it was so loud.
Yeah.
So it was, and we had had activity right there too. We had rocks being thrown. And there was a lot of different things going on that, and I'd actually seen one on thermal, and then it stepped back in, and I didn't know that that was a Bigfoot because it was my first time playing with a thermal camera. I thought it was somebody who was with us because I just saw human shape thermal,
Yeah.
and it ended up not being somebody
Yeah.
who
Something.
was with us. It was something. So
Yeah.
yeah. But then when we tried to walk into the woods that way, we had rocks thrown at us. So, and a little bit later, we had that very loud owl
Owl.
sound echoed, right? So all of it together made me think more about the
Yeah.
sound not being an owl. But
Yeah. Well, a lot of
I,
times I've heard, like in Oklahoma, I've heard them during the day, and they sound a little off, and they're coming from that same mountain or whatever hill that we think where they're coming from at night. So I've always
Mhm.
thought that was kind of, coincidental. But
But I
yeah,
do
that's
know that there's scientists out there who have the computer programs that can put the sounds through there to figure out what made
yeah,
that sound.
right.
So that's always a fun thing to explore.
I'm surprised they don't have an app that can do it yet, a phone app, because I mean, I've got a phone app. You can scan plants. It tells you what kind of plant it is. And I found one the other day. We had a stray dog, and you can scan the dogs. And it tells you what kind of dog they are. I kid you not. And I just thought about that because I had that plant program. I said, I wonder if they have a dog scan program. And I looked it up, and sure enough, they had one.
See, there's your million dollar idea. Make a
I was just
Bigfoot
gonna say that.
program.
No.
Well, just an animal sound identifier
Yes,
would be good.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I've heard things out in the woods before that I was like, what is that? There was one time Jenna and I were out up on the White Earth Reservation in Minnesota, and we're walking, 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 and all of a sudden we hear this. It sounded like a scream. "Eh!" And we didn't think it was Bigfoot, but she went back, and it like sounded surprised and scared as it replied, and it was this
Oh,
back and forth, back and forth. And I never did find out what was making that noise. I listened to Route 2. I
no
mean, I
fox.
was just curious. I listened to all kinds of audio files online and I couldn't figure out what it
Couldn't
was.
figure out. I know
No.
foxes will make some weird stuff sometimes.
I
And,
think it
and
was some kind of,
bobcats.
I'm
Bird.
thinking it was some type of a large bird, but I
Never
I don't
know.
know. I don't know. I never did figure that out, but that was in the area where there had been Bigfoot sightings. That's why we were back there. So,
Yeah, never
but
know.
yeah, you never know.
Sorry,
You
there's
never know.
hail hitting my window.
Well, I think back. I remember. I mean, I've always kind of followed the Bigfoot thing, but before I was really followed that much, I mean, I've hunted my whole life, and I remember over the years hunting in different areas and hearing weird things that I never could identify. But you just kind of blow it off after a while. You hear it and you're trying to think, what is that? And then you don't even think about it. It's just you just kind of blow it off. Now, of course, anything I hear, I'm like, I'm super alert. Like, okay, what is that? What is it? But back then, I just hear it and think, is that a somebody's bull, or is that a cow, or we don't have any elk around here, and then finally it just kind of blow it off. Think it was just some weird sound that a cow made or something.
I'm pretty familiar with the sounds that cows make.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've heard some bulls, especially, make some really weird stuff, and I don't know what triggers it, but um, and I've heard actually deer make some weird sounds that I never knew they made, as well. Um, and there's been a couple times I've spooked deer, and a lot of people don't know it, but they'll bleat. They'll bleat. I've had them do that, and other stuff that you would never expect from a deer. Well, but
We had something in the dark. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it huffed. And I was just camping. This was before I was looking for Bigfoot, but it was
Yeah.
large, whatever it was, huffed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's a pretty big something.
Yeah.
Better go in. But yeah, yeah. Next week I'm going up to my reservation, which we're going pretty deep on the res, and there's this big powwow, but we're gonna be camping there, and during that, and so I like to put my tent right on the edge of the wilderness there.
Yeah.
And they didn't have one last year, but the year before that, I had a 750-pound bear at my tent.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And I was laying in there and I saw the shadow of thing come up to the door. And I was looking at it going, that looks like a bear. And I saw this push in on the tent door. And then I heard, and I was like, it's a bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bear. Uh, so, and then of course everybody was thinking it couldn't have been a bear because they live trap the bears there and they take them away
Hmm.
so that it takes them longer to come back than what the powwow going on,
Mhm.
so that they don't bother any of the people that would be camping out there. But apparently, this was an older bear who had been live trapped many years in a row and
Came
decided,
back.
I'm not falling for that one again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
So
is that?
he had
Yeah.
apparently burst into 3 tents before he came to mine.
Oh, wow.
But
Good
there
thing you
was
didn't have
nobody.
any food.
I didn't have any food. That's right.
That's why he
I'm
didn't
not
Yeah.
a
break
snack
in.
girl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Just delicious meat, I tell you what.
Well, yeah, I know. I know in Yellowstone they were. I was watching where they'll live trap those bears and haul them off, but they'll haul them off and then they'll come back and they're like, well, let's haul them off farther. They keep coming back. You
Oh
know.
yeah, they come back, but they don't kill bears up there unless there's a
Yeah.
major problem. But
Yeah.
because most of the tribal people up there are bear clans, so they consider them relatives. So they don't hunt bear up there.
Yeah. I got you.
They live very peacefully.
Yeah. And
So
what tribe is it?
the Red Lake Band of Chippewa in northern Minnesota.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Yeah. So
Josh, what tribe was that in Michigan, Josh, that you met up with? You remember?
I was just thinking about that earlier today, and I couldn't remember.
Ottawatomie,
Yes.
there you go. They're actually a relative of the Chippewa or the Ojibwe. It's the
Oh, okay.
same language dialect.
Yeah, they
So
actually invited me to one of their little powwows, and I
you
ended
should
up going
go.
out there.
You did? Did you go to
I
the
did.
powwow?
I did. It
Awesome.
was. They had it really late, so they were up to like 2 a.m. They had all kinds of food, and all kinds of stuff, and we were talking about Sasquatch, and they showed me a picture of what they think is a dog man. It was real interesting.
That they killed, right?
Yeah, that they one of them had killed.
Oh,
Apparently, it was a really old picture. It was right, like I would say, right before Polaroids. Maybe it was old, but it was in color. But they had shot it in the head because it was killing cattle and I guess abducting people. It was pretty freaky looking.
Hmm.
They invited me to come again.
When's
So
the next one? Are you going?
I don't know. They haven't set an exact date yet, but they do want me to go. It is quite a drive for me. I know. I know when I went, I left and got there like around 11 at night. Stayed there till about 2 or 3 and just drove back home.
oh wow.
Uh,
Yeah, you might want to stay the night.
Yeah, I think I would too.
well, I wasn't sure what I was going into or anything like that. I didn't know them all that well, and but as we started talking, I got to talk with them, and I got a little more comfortable. And
Powwows are really good events to go to for everybody really. They are very welcoming to people to come and
Yeah.
visit. And they actually, if they're being held at a reservation, the custom is that they feed you at least one feast a day for free. So everybody can line up and eat. And the last one I went to, the my reservation was this spring, and they had it was a different kind of feast because of COVID. Everything was served different. Like they had like a real thick wild rice hot dish type soup hot dish, but it was all pre-packaged and the sandwiches were pre-packaged. Where normally it's a buffet style where they're throwing food on a platter for you.
Yeah. Okay.
But they're adjusting to the times. So yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
I
the
love
food
So
was delicious. I didn't know half the stuff I was eating, but it was good.
Indian taco. That's my favorite. Indian taco.
They would tell me what it was, but it would be in their native language. And a part of me felt like they were kind of messing with me a little bit. I was like, this kind of looks like enchiladas. um,
That was probably the fry bread.
but it was
Yeah.
one of those where it was kind of invite only powwows.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey.
And I was the only outsider there.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
well, there you go. That's a good honor right there.
Yeah,
It
it
was.
is.
I was real honored. It was fun.
Yeah, that's
That's
neat.
awesome. Well, I'm gonna be camping for about 5 days next week for that, and well, I go early and then spend some time in the woods and exploring up there and having some fun.
Do
Wish
they?
you could come, Tammy.
I kind of wish I could come. I'm not driving to Minnesota again.
Do they? Do they do research of their own on Sasquatch, or are they just? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Uh, well, the thing is that the majority, everybody there knows that they're there, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of them. There's a lot of them there because every time I go
Right.
up looking, every time, I mean, I can't hardly stick without finding something up there
Okay.
for real.
Okay.
They're thick up there, but a lot of the evidence that I found has been up there, and sadly during COVID they closed their time off to go up looking there.
Your microphone cut out. What'd you say?
Did it?
Yeah.
How much did you miss?
Yeah, I heard because of COVID something.
They shut the borders to the reservation, so we couldn't even use our time off to go in the woods up there. They weren't letting anybody on it. They were just trying to keep COVID out. So now that everything's opened back up again there and explore a little bit while we're up there too.
Yeah.
So yeah. But we found all kinds of structures. The DNR that is on the tribal DNR, they find the den-like structures that I found also, but they find them all the time. And they say they know that Bigfoot's making them, and they just, when
Yeah.
they see one, they just back away real slowly and don't go near it. So they don't want any trouble. They respect it. But a lot
Yeah.
of the times when people see or encounter Bigfoot up there, they never report it to anybody like a researcher because they think of it as a spiritual message to them that they saw it.
Yeah.
And that's true with like anything. If they see an eagle, that's a spiritual message too.
Right.
If they see a fox, if they see a wolf, that's a specific message. But Bigfoot would be really special to see. So they'd probably go talk to their spiritual advisor, ask them to interpret what that might mean to them
Okay.
that they saw it.
So then how do they feel about other people researching and looking for Bigfoot and having TV shows and getting paid to look for Bigfoot? How do they feel about that?
I think that different people have different opinions on that, and wherever you go or whatever or wherever you are. However, the people that I've met and that I mean, I'm a tribal member up there. I'm really light skinned, but I'm actually a tribal member. They have, the people that I know have actually come to me and told me that they had a sighting or that they found, and they probably wouldn't tell that to other people, but
Your mic's cutting out again. They probably wouldn't tell that to other people, but
because they know me already and they know that I'm interested in that, they go ahead and tell me about that and tell me where it was, or they send me pictures, or So
So they're okay with you looking,
they're okay with me
and
looking.
they know that we're public figures, and so they're okay with all of it because they still share the information with you.
Yes, they do. But
Okay.
I don't think that they would call up the BFRO or
Right.
Yeah.
anybody that they didn't know, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Well, and they know when I'm out there that I'm putting tobacco down, I'm giving prayers, and I'm going in a good way. So, what they would call a good way, with good intentions and in a good way. So I'm being respectful of them and their space and who they are as beings and being sacred. You know, we consider Bigfoot to be our big brother who looks out for us. So
Are, so their ancestors, their stories about Sasquatch, are they all positive type
yes, for the
stories?
most part, yes. The trading with them, that, they would put items out for them, basket, and then they would come back later and the basket would be full of something else
Okay.
that they gave back. And normally it was things that were harder to get to, like things from the swamps or the bogs,
But
you
it's stuff
know,
they could use.
yeah, stuff they could use.
Yeah.
So, but they'd leave fish in there, or we would, the people would leave fish or garlic or corn, or different things in there for them. Uh,
What was
is that
that?
the storm?
No, that's not here.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is either. Okay.
That's really
I
loud.
was like, wow. Um, it wasn't Bigfoot,
It was not Bigfoot.
not Bigfoot. But there's all kinds of different stories about different kinds of creatures up there too.
Okay.
Um, and the Ojibwe, or is actually the largest tribe that there was, and it covered Minnesota, for the majority of Minnesota, part of North Dakota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and then all the areas above that into Canada, above the Great Lakes. So I mean, it was absolutely huge before it was cut in half by the United States American border. And so then they split up into different names of tribes. So so then you get the Potawatomi. They split up as they become more large family units, or tribal units, I should say. Anyway, there's different stories that come from different reservations, and so it's very interesting to hear and talk to people from other reservations who will carry other stories down. So
Hmm.
I'm always interested to talk to Native people from any tribe, anywhere,
You
and
bet.
I'm interested to hear about the stories that they have to share. I've heard that the Lakota have told me that Bigfoot is always near the little people, or what they call the Jehotanas, which are the little people of the woodland trees, which actually look like Bigfoots, but they're only like 3 feet tall, full grown. But they look just like Bigfoot. but
Oh no.
but they're little and they live in the trees. He says they're always usually really close to them, and I'm like, "Are you sure they aren't like baby Bigfoots or anything?" And they're like, "Nope, they're full grown." And so I think that that's something that's really interesting that I would really like to explore a little bit further, um, and see, because I did have an encounter with something like that
Okay.
years before I ever got into Bigfoot. I was in the woods. I was mixing mushroom spawn into the ground, and I was trying to cultivate some morel mushrooms to grow in the piece of land that I had. And I realized that I had removed a lot of rock from the ground before I reached the soil, and I was like, I'm not sure that this is good for this tree right here. So my great uncle had taught me, if you have a question, you can always ask the spirits of the forest. And so just ask it and wait for your answer. And I'm like, okay. So I stopped and I said, hey, I'm trying to bring more life to this forest by planting this mushroom spawn, but I don't want to hurt this tree. And so if this is bad for the tree, please let me know and I will stop. And I just waited, and nothing happened. So I'm like, okay, no answer is an answer. So I just started loosening the soil some more. And out of my peripheral vision, I saw what looked very similar to some type of a monkey, a thick monkey that like was hanging upside down and growled in my ear. And then it
Really?
was gone. And I was like, all right, there's my answer. I'm going to stop. Thanks for letting me know.
Huh.
And that was years before I ever went looking for Bigfoot or even thought about Bigfoot. And I just accepted that it was some type of nature spirit that was answering my question. And I didn't question it any further than that until years later when I was doing Bigfoot research and talking to different people. And this Lakota person from South Dakota was telling me about the Chahotanas being nearby the Bigfoot all the time. So if you want to look up the Chahotanas, they spell it Canotina.
Okay.
So
I will look that up.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by the different Native American stories. I like to read about them, and they're because I know they all like different tribes have different stories, and some, you hear some tribes talk about having issues with them coming in and taking women, and children, and then you hear other, like you said, the tribes that trade with them and stuff. I've read a lot about that where they, and it almost sounded like to me that on some of the stories I read that they had face to face trading with them, that they actually showed themselves.
Yes, there's a lot of that too. And there was a sighting up on the reservation next to the one there where my family comes from. And that was a native man in a canoe. He was fishing and right up until dark. And then there was a Bigfoot that was tracking him in the shallows of the water and was aggressively moving towards him. And I'm really sure that he was trying to signal him that you should give me your fish.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the guy was just scared and wouldn't come in closer. So he just stayed out and was trying to wait for him to go away. And he was out there for 2 hours until somebody came looking for him because he didn't come home.
Oh,
And then it ran into the woods. So um, they went back the next day and they got footprints. So that was pretty neat. But that was it was a like a white or a blonde Bigfoot.
okay.
So yeah, a very light colored one. That was interesting. I talked to Lauren Coleman about that, and he said that he thinks that their hair changes color just like ours does when they age. So he
Well,
thought
that
maybe that
makes
was
sense.
an older one.
That's
So
that's crossed my mind in the past that might be I've heard stories of people talking about uh, having clans of them around their property and talking about one older one and had some white hair, so that would make sense
hmm?
for sure.
And there was another one that was spotted by quite a few people, like maybe 5 miles from there, and that one was talked about having a gray patch. He had a gray patch on his back.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm wondering if that was kind of maybe some type of discoloration in the pigment of his skin, because that can happen.
Right.
So, but a lot of people were reporting seeing this one with this large gray patch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they definitely could have that happen too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wonder, if, years ago when with Native Americans and when things weren't so crazy, the population wasn't near where it is now. If maybe they were a little less wary about coming around people and showing themselves to people. And now, of course, I'm sure they're aware that you got all these people looking for them and groups looking for them, and people trying to shoot them and so forth. Maybe they're a lot more wary now than what they used to be back in the
Well,
day.
okay. So there was one elder from the Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota, which is also an Ojibwe reservation.
Okay.
Um, she told me that you can pray and ask him for help, and he will help you.
Hmm.
Does it all the time when she's driving home at night. She prays to Bigfoot, asking him to keep the deer off the road. Keep the deer off the road so she
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
hit them. And she says she literally sees them standing by the side of the road sometimes where there's deer.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well,
And she puts out tobacco and she gives a prayer and an offering and she asks them to keep the deer off the road so while she's driving by and so that's how I learned that you could ask Bigfoot for help. So yeah.
There's definitely some spiritual relationships there, and again, you see that a lot when you with the Native Americans. When they talk about it, a lot of spiritual type interaction. That's interesting.
Absolutely. And when, there's this connection with nature and all things really that is available to everyone, not just Native people. It's
Yeah.
available to everybody, all human beings. We're all related and interconnected and interdependent on each other, all things and all people, no matter where you come from.
Yeah.
Everybody's indigenous from somebody, somewhere. So,
Very
right?
That's
true.
true. Very true.
Oh, but we all come from planet Earth. So here we are.
Very
And
well.
there's such a connection that is available to people when they open themselves up to it out there, and it's a beautiful thing. And so for those who haven't tried something like that, I highly suggest talking to the nature spirits when you're out there,
Yeah.
and asking for guidance when you need it. you know um my mom, and I don't recommend this. I highly don't recommend this. I scolded her many times. My mom would walk out in the woods, and we were always foraging for food when I was growing up. My mom would pick up a mushroom, not know what it was, and ask if it was okay to eat it, and she'd feel yes it was or no it wasn't. I do not
Yeah, I don't
recommend doing
recommend.
that. Do
And then
not
she
do that.
did.
Do not do that. She's love.
No, I will not. I don't trust my inner spirit.
Everybody's like, oh, so that's what happened to Jen. I
Funny.
was like, Mom, you can't do that. That's a mushroom. You don't know. You should
Right?
always have like 3 points of knowing for sure what it is before you even think about eating it.
I'm sure.
So, but yeah, she would just know. She'd ask if it was okay, and she'd be like, "Yeah, it's okay." I'm like, "No," but then she got all these mushroom books, so that was better. But
Yeah, I run into a guy on a hike in Colorado that had a bunch, and he said, "Oh, these are all edible," and tried to give me some. I was like, "I ain't trust. I'm not trust. I don't trust. I am not trying it."
I know a few of the mushrooms. So I know a few of them that I can eat. So
Yeah,
those I will eat, but the ones that I don't know, no way.
yeah, uh,
what's interesting is I was in a Bigfoot hotspot in Indiana, looking around, and I noticed that there was a lot of chicken in the woods mushrooms there. And I thought, this is odd. Like, why aren't the Bigfoot eating these? Why? They're edible. They taste good. Um, and then I looked it up later, like chicken in the woods, because I'd never actually eaten them. I just hear they're really good. Um, and I found out that if you don't cook them, they will cause you massive problems in your gut, the
hmm,
indigestion and just a very upset stomach. And
yeah.
I was like, huh, they must know that then. But they are edible. You have to cook them.
Interesting.
Huh, interesting.
All right. So I'm a holistic healer by profession. And so massage therapy, Reiki, which is a Japanese form of energy healing, very similar to what they're doing in like native medicine type thing. I do aromatherapy and plant medicines and reflexology. And just I do also like spiritual guidance for people. And I put on retreats for people to come in and do these. They're really life changing, eye opening consciousness retreats that I do. So that's what I do.
My profession at this point is a Bigfoot researcher. I do kickboxing and I do that, and I am a psychic. I have done readings before. I used to work for a chat psychic company and also a telephone psychic company. I did that for a couple years. I got burnt out on it. Other than that, I was in management, retail management. I've been a store manager, a department manager, all lead managers, all that stuff. I got burnt out on that too. So right now I'm just looking for adventure. And actually, I just spoke with somebody today about getting a job part-time as running a zip line in
Oh,
town. So I might be getting paid to go zip lining all the time.
pretty awesome.
That's like the perfect job for me. I get to play all day and get paid for it.
Yeah, you can't
Okay.
beat that.
There you go.
No,
Like
that's
they
awesome.
know her or
Right?
something.
Hey, hey, Dad. On the the expedition in the UP, did you get a chance to tell them about your weird experience with me and you?
Talking about down at the
Look at
at
the
the.
rock quarry.
No, I don't remember if I did. If I told y'all or not.
Tell us again.
Well, so we took the ATVs and went down. There's a rock. If you hit that road that go in the direction to where we camped that time, probably 2 miles, 3 miles out, there's a rock quarry.
Oh.
So Josh and I rode the ATVs, went down in the rock quarry to look for footprints. We found some wolf prints and stuff. And while we were down there, it's kind of a large open area. I'd say the size of a football field, maybe a little bigger to the edge of the woods. Till you get to the edge of the woods, I saw some ice shine down. I caught some ice shine on the light down on the ground. It seemed kind of low to the ground, and I kept watching. And a couple minutes later, it kind of whatever it was got up higher. I couldn't tell if it was something on 2 legs or 4 legs, but it was big. I could tell it was big. And then we sat there and watched it for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, and then it took off into the woods. But I did notice when it took off, it seemed to be looking at us as it ran, because I could see the eye shine most of the time until it actually got off into the woods. And it moved pretty fast. Like I said, I could tell it was big by the eyes, but I couldn't tell. It didn't seem like it bounced like something on 4 legs as much, but we never did get a good idea from that. But we went back the next day with I think it was Robert. I think with Robert and I think Jason went too.
Yeah, Jason did go.
And looking around, we found some possible what looked like might have been fist prints where something was leaning down and stuck its knuckle prints. Yeah, stuck its knuckle in the ground.
Actually took some LiDAR scans of those.
Yeah, we did, and so no 100% on that because it wasn't super clear, but it was interesting.
Jason was saying the same thing about when he saw that one, and when you said it was down low, remember he said it was like almost like a spider that was real low to the ground, and it didn't bounce when it moved, and it kept looking at him the entire time. Even as it's running that direction, he's looking back at them the entire time. All of those things are the same things that Jason said, so I find that really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that spider crawl, it's funny because I've heard that mentioned by quite a few people. And how odd looking it is when they do that.
That might creep me out a little bit because I'm not a big fan of spiders.
Some of the past stories, the hair on my neck stood up a little bit when I've heard these stories where people had them, where people have them kind of, because it seems like they'll do that so they can sneak up close to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a video going around right now of one supposedly doing that up to a car window. I don't know how real it is, but it looks pretty real. It's pretty creepy looking.
Yeah.
Freaks
I'm
the guy
scared
out.
of Bigfoot, but that would creep me out.
It's actually on.
Well, I remember a story, I think it was in Colorado, of a guy and his 2 sons that were camping, and they were coming around the camp, and they ended up leaving, but I forget exactly what happened. They got spooked, so they started throwing stuff back in the truck, and he got up in the back of the truck. They were loading stuff and looked over in front of the truck, and he saw one spider crawling up towards the truck and saw its eyes. So yeah, that point they jumped in the truck and took off. Which I think
I'm a fan of spiders.
Yeah, I've even heard people say that they use their fingers when they do this. Somewhat. Yeah, that even makes it more freaky,
I think when you think about it, it might make it more quiet for them to move.
Right.
I mean, they seem to move very quietly.
Yes, they do.
Which I think is interesting. So I've often wondered, because like when I'm out in like Minnesota in October, when the leaves are on the ground, everything's very loud when you walk, right? But when it's dark out, it's amazingly quiet until you turn off the light, and then it sounds like all this movement's rushing around you, and you're like, whoa, turn the light back on.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, how were they moving prior to that? Are they moving in the tree? Like, I've been speculating that. Like, how are they moving on the ground and being so quiet?
Yeah, I don't know, and you hear it a lot. I mean, I've heard of them jumping from tree to tree, and people seeing them jump from tree to tree and not hearing them land
Mm-hmm.
because they're so quiet. I don't know unless they're somehow. The only thing I can think of is when they land, they're using their toes. Maybe they're landing on their toes before they're and keeping their whole foot from hitting the ground at the same time. Maybe spreading it out a little bit. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. Um,
I know I'd break my toes.
yeah, I couldn't do that. No, I'm no Flintstone.
Nope, I couldn't do the finger crawl either.
Yeah, me neither. So yeah, that is odd. But it sure explains how you know how a lot of people that sight them they're pretty close when they finally see them. So it does explain how they're able to get up to you and you not know they're there until they're right on top of you. You know.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of times they lay down because they blend in so well.
Yeah,
No,
that's another
if they
thing.
just stay still, they
I
just
have
crouch down or bend down.
that video if y'all want to see it real quick.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's
Which
real,
video
it's,
are we looking at?
It's kind of a Bigfoot supposedly spider crawling up to a guy's window
I want to see it.
in his car.
Yeah, I can see it
Yeah, I
too.
want to see.
Is that? Oh! Is that? Oh! Is that?
Front. Wow. Who knows?
I mean, if that's real, that's creepy.
I'd
Well,
like to see that on my big screen. Can you
Yeah,
send me
me
the
too.
link to that later? Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube and TikTok. I can actually send it to you right now.
yeah, since
Well, if
me.
you can send it to me on YouTube, then I can cast it to my TV.
Yes, please.
Look at it on big screen.
Yeah, I'd like to do the same.
Yeah. And that's one of the tricks I do. Something like we posted up a video from the UP expedition and somebody commented on there that she saw something at like 23 seconds. And so I went back and looked at it with my phone and it did look like there might be something crouched down there. I got kind of excited there for a minute. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get home and cast it on TV and look at it on the big screen. And then I did that and I was like, no, it's just a stump.
You were talking about them blending. I've got a researcher friend that we used to spend a lot of time with out in Sam Houston, and he's retired, so he would go out there and set up camp on his own and stay out there 6-7 days at a time. And he's had a lot of sightings out there because of that, because he's staying out there so long and by himself. And one of the things he mentioned is that he's noticed when he's had sightings of them is when you see them, they'll turn their head so that you get only a side profile. They're harder to see because they blend so well. And if they turn their head, their eyes don't show. So that sometimes it's easy to spot things by their eyes or their nose, right? They'll turn their head sideways. So when he's looking for him or looking at him, sometimes he won't catch him till he goes back and finds him on the camera. But they'll turn their head and show a side profile so that you don't see their eyes.
Mm.
There you go.
Yeah, and he said he's seen that multiple times out there and caught it on video. And I've seen some of his videos, pretty good. But like I said, there's been several videos that I've seen or pictures that he didn't even know he was looking at them until he went back and watched it later. And then it's pretty obvious once you find them on there and you stop it, then it's pretty obvious. But almost all of them, they had that side profile thing going on.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It shows you how intelligent they are,
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think it would be
Very
really
strong.
neat to get into. I know that there are some elders that know, like in specifically Canada and on Ojibwe reservations in Canada.
Mhm.
I've talked to some elders that talk about having knowledge of hearing from their elders about the star people coming. And when they start to see like what we would call a UFO, then they know where to go, and then they land and they talk with them.
Mhm.
And I think that that would be, I've asked around a lot about that to see if who knows about it. See, it's funny because you can ask a lot of questions and you really find out quick who knows something, who doesn't. You
Yeah,
know, who's heard about it and who hasn't. And
yeah,
it may, you know, I'm always looking for somebody that has firsthand knowledge of it. Because
yeah,
I think that that would be really interesting because we hear a lot of stories from people who've had Bigfoot sightings here that talk about the UFO sightings at the same time.
absolutely.
So I'm curious about that connection. Um, about
Um,
to learn more about that to see, you know, are they talking to them too? Are they having little meetings with them too? Which is highly possible.
yeah, there's a series, a book series, and I can't remember the author. I'm gonna have to look it up, and I'll send it to you. I've got a couple of his books. It's basically compilation of interviews he's done over many years with different people. There's quite a few stories in there regarding UFOs and UFO and Bigfoot, and there seems to be a connection there
Yes.
on a lot of the stories that he has in that book.
There was a show on TV and I think it was called Hangar One. And it was basically they took the MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network's case files, and they were doing little sections of video about these interesting case files. And they had one where they were doing about strange things that happen on Indian reservations and how the native people just don't seem shook at all by seeing a UFO or anything like that. But as soon as they see like a government helicopter, then they start freaking out. But UFO, no big deal. Uh, and
Yeah.
you know, they have all kinds of really cool stories on there that were reports that were taken. And there was one in particular where he was following footprints that ended up this old man that took this boy and he said we're going to follow these footprints, and he was explaining how these are our friends, and they followed him to what very specific markings on the ground where they disappeared, which was very similar to something that we found in Minnesota. I'm not sure if you guys saw if we had the coloring books there or not, but on the front of the coloring books that we have is a picture of footprints that we found in Minnesota in a gravel pit. And at the top of the gravel pit where they disappeared, the whole thing was flattened. All the weeds were flattened into these
Okay.
perfect circles within circles
Oh,
within circles. And
okay.
what was interesting about that is that on that one episode of Hangar One, it was this old native elder who took this young boy. They were following footprints, and they ended at that same type of a thing. These perfect circles in the ground, circles within circles within circles. So
Interesting.
I
Very
think
interesting.
it's interesting, you know, that we had found, and we had already found that when I saw that
Yeah.
on TV later.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey,
I do remember you speaking at the conference about that.
yes, yes.
Um, well, you know, I personally believe that the Sasquatch Genome Project that Melba Ketchum was in on, I believe that's legit. And the DNA findings would back some of that up. I think it's there's some odd stuff on the nuclear side um, that would basically indicate that, you know, it could be some type of relationship there. Now, I know her beliefs are from a religious aspect that, um, but either way, the nuclear side of the DNA, um, and of course I'm no DNA expert, but basically shows some one side is something that doesn't exist in the database, and it also shows, um, and she said this in interviews, but people don't pick up on that. And I'm trying to think the wording she used, but that it's not, you know, you can kind of follow a normal hybridization. You can see the normal patterns of hybridization in the genetics. This does not show normal patterns. This shows, what was the word she used? Architect.
Oh,
Um, I don't. That's the exact word, but it was basically that what she meant. That it's showing. It's not a normal progression. It shows that, engineered. That's the word that she used.
so genetically,
Yes, on the
that's
nuclear side.
interesting.
Yes, So
the Sumerian, the
like a hybridization.
Sumerian,
Yeah.
the Sumerian tablets, they talked about the creation of the Adam, were the first man, and
Mhm.
the pit there. It's a pictorial type of language, and they actually showed what laboratory thing where they literally, that was the where they first got the stuff from the Bible where they talk about let's make man in our image. Literally, that was the same type of thing, but the Sumerian stuff is older,
Mhm.
and literally showed somebody in like a laboratory, and they were mixing
Yeah.
genetics.
Yeah.
That was very, and I think that's, you look at the old Egyptian stuff and you see the chimera type things where you've got human crossed with animal, you know,
Right.
how much of that was really going on?
Yeah.
Were there experiments like that going
Yeah.
on? Were
Yeah.
they crossing cats with people? Were they crossing dogs, crossing, all these type of thing? And you can look at people today and you look at, like, I find it interesting to look at people's teeth, right? So some people have very flat teeth. They look very much like they are plant eaters. They've come from many generations and millennia of plant eaters. And then there's other people who have very sharp canines, who obviously came from many, 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 many eons of, or, however long of meat eaters, So, how did that come about? How long did it take for that to happen?
Yeah.
Where you're having completely different kinds of teeth in the same kind of a species,
Right. Right.
right? Right?
Mhm.
That doesn't, if you look at dogs' teeth pretty much look very much the same no matter what kind of dog it is. They're just bigger or smaller,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think very interesting that how it's changed like that in the human species. And I start to wonder, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
I think that we're hybrid too.
Yeah. We very well may be.
I
Um,
absolutely are. All of the old native stories, no matter what tribe you come from or what continent you come from, the indigenous people talk about coming from
yeah.
the star
Can,
people,
can you
that
see
we
my
come from.
storm?
Yeah.
It
Sure
is.
can. It's like a big one.
So I do think that that's probably the more likely story of us, because
Yeah. Well, and another thing on that DNA is you can tell back when you can look at each DNA and see when the hybridization. There's a way to kind of do a time
yeah,
sequence to see some of the hybridizations from some of their samples were 15,000 years ago. So
Wow.
you're talking about 15,000 years ago, a human female is mixed with something that doesn't exist in the DNA database, basically.
and that happens in other species too,
Yeah.
where that happens in other species too, and people don't throw it out as ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
So why are we throwing it out as ridiculous in this case? But
Yeah.
what people don't understand about that study is mitochondrial DNA is what tracks the female mother
Right.
of the species, and it's true no matter what species you're in. So, like, let's say we looked at a Chihuahua's mitochondrial DNA, it's going to say I'm a gray wolf because
Yeah.
its mother's way back in the day was a gray
Right.
wolf, and it still looks like gray wolf. And if you look at the mitochondrial DNA, but the nuclear DNA is what comes from the father,
Yes.
and that changes. The nuclear DNA can change where the mitochondrial DNA stays identical. Okay. So you can track the mother line in migration routes, all kinds of really cool stuff. And it's
Yeah.
easier to look at the mitochondrial DNA because it's a smaller package. It's
Yeah.
cheaper, it's easier. That's what they're usually looking at. So it would make sense when they do these DNA studies on any kind of thing that they're looking primarily at the mitochondrial DNA. And then, yes, if that's coming back as human, that's because the mother's mother was a human.
Yeah.
Would have been forever ago,
Right.
forever ago.
Right.
And then this unknown, when they look at the nuclear DNA, which comes from the father, that was an unknown species,
Right.
something that's not in the system. They don't know what it was.
And
So,
yeah, it's fascinating. I tell you another thing. They're sequencing Dogman right now, and she hasn't elaborated, but she did say there are some relationships in the DNA between Sasquatch and Dogman. She didn't say what they are. I don't know what they are, but another hybrid, I'm sure, of course.
yes,
Um,
that's very interesting.
yeah, yeah. I thought that was really. I can't wait for that to come out. I think they're working on that. She's working on that right now.
You talked to her about it?
Mhm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Keep me posted. I would like to hear more about that.
Okay. Yeah, I will.
So,
I
what are
will.
your thoughts on Dogman? I haven't gone looking for Dogman at
I
all.
No, I haven't either, and I don't know. You don't hear too many good stories about them.
That's true. That's true. All the stories you hear are very aggressive.
I don't think I want to run into one, but I think there's a good population of them. I mean, there's some platforms out there that are strictly dogman platforms, and there's a lot of. It's just like Sasquatch. There's a lot of eyewitnesses. A lot of eyewitnesses. Um, and some of them even being habituation type stuff. I mean, I listen. There's one platform out there called Dogman Encounters, and I listen to that one a lot. And he gets a lot of people who have been raised on properties where they've had dogmen on their land for past 2 generations. It's pretty interesting. So I don't know what to think about them, but I've also heard some reports of them being seen with Sasquatch before. So I don't know but you also hear other stories of them clashing. I've heard, so I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting, but I think they're both ancient creatures that have been around for a long time.
Hmm I've heard
Well,
some Dogman stories where they kind of describe, like the head of Anubis.
Hmm.
That's how I picture Dogman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you wonder, well, where'd that come out?
Yeah.
The Greek or the Egyptian, where did
Yeah.
something like this? Interesting.
In which
Yep.
case, then there has to be cat people too, then, right?
Well, I've heard
Fat and
stories
fast.
about that.
they're called
Yeah.
Wampus kitties.
I don't know where you
Yeah.
got that from.
No, they really are. Wampus kitties are supposed to be humanoid cats.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I've actually heard about the humanoid cats too, but I don't know how. I mean, I guess I haven't somebody that's seen one in person, but I've heard of it.
Yeah.
So, yep.
And that's the thing on stuff like that. I haven't studied up enough on them. I don't know how. I get a lot of when you follow these platforms and you hear interview after interview and you see repeated patterns, then you start. That's how I develop my. That a lot of my belief system is based on eyewitness interviews, is because you get repeated stuff. Well, I mean, I've listened to lots of Sasquatch. I've listened to a lot of Dogmen eyewitness. I haven't looked for platforms for some of these other type creatures, so I don't know how prominent sightings are of like cat beings. What do you call them? The wampus kitties or stuff like that. So, but they may be a lot more prominent than I realized.
hmm
I just haven't looked.
Yeah. Well, and there's other it's too. Like I specifically am. Whenever I go up to my reservations, I'm also on the lookout for some type of hyena,
Okay.
because on previous years, starting 2010, 2011, up there, uh, there's packs of wild dogs that they pack up. And there was this one particular one that in this pack that was coming through and scavenging through the trash. Um, he looked like a hyena.
Huh.
And I kept looking at it. That look like a hyena? Doesn't that look? And I was kept pointing it out. Doesn't that look like a hyena? Everybody's like, yeah, that does look like a hyena. And I had never seen a hyena in person to know how big they are, because they're
Yeah.
actually quite large. I think they're larger than a wolf, but this wasn't as large as a wolf. It was maybe just a little bit smaller than a wolf, and but it looked just like a hyena. It had the spots, it had the mane, it had the 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 body shape that went down to the short legs. And when I pointed it out to quite a few people, everybody agreed that does look like a hyena.
Hmm.
And it was there for a few years, and then it was gone. And
Huh.
I asked around about it, and they said that every once in a while they thin out the wild dogs because they become a problem.
Hmm.
So they get, because they're not scared of humans, they can get
Yeah.
aggressive. That's the scariest thing you can run into up there,
Yeah.
is the pack of wild dogs.
I've heard that. Yeah. Before.
Hmm Yeah. So,
Just
so I'm always on the lookout for that kind of thing up there again. So, there's other types of cryptids to look out for too. Even though hyenas exist, they're not supposed to be here.
Right?
Right.
In Minnesota.
And there was, I did some research on it. There was supposedly in the North American hyena that has supposedly went extinct a long time ago and was rumored to be exist.
okay.
So it is like like a cryptid.
All right.
So, yeah, fun.
It wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really not, you can't believe the existence of one cryptid and not open your mind to the possibility of all of them, because that would be
Yeah.
foolish.
I mean, if you'd asked me 4 years ago what I thought of dog man, I would have been like, "Oh, come on now," But the more, like I
What
said,
about
I started.
Sheep squatch.
Sheep squatch.
There are actually sightings in West Virginia of sheep squatch. If you look it up, it's a real sightings. I don't know if it's a real thing. Could be somebody on some moonshine that's seen a Sasquatch. So
Well, another thing I think of is on some of these sightings that they have names for is whether they might just all be Sasquatch. They all look, you hear they all look different. They're just like us. They look different.
Maybe there's some with curly hair.
Yeah.
Why not? There's people with curly hair.
Like poodle, Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I
And
mean, you
goat
hear
man.
them have elongated noses. Some of them have longer kind of snouts, and some that look more human. So, I mean, I think a lot of these places, you have a lot of areas specific areas that have a name for a creature that's sighted in their area, and they have their own name for it. I think a lot of those are probably just Sasquatch.
Well, I thought a lot about the goat man when I went down to what is that place called? It's like a trellis. Where they have the goat man sightings a lot. Is that in Kentucky?
I don't remember, but I
I can't remember the name of it. But I went to and we did a little bit of investigating there where the goat man sightings were. And when I look at depictions of what goat man looks like, it
Mhm.
looks like Pan. Tammy.
Looks like who?
Pan.
Oh. Well.
Yeah. And
He's
can
a
you tell
pagan
them
god. He's a pagan god of the forest.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you said Pam. I said, "Oh, Pam. What's Pam? I don't want to see
Pam.
And now I'm trying to remember what the other beings that look like that too. I'm trying to remember what they're called right now.
I know of one too. Not the centaur.
Satyr? A satyr.
Satyr. There you go.
Satyr. So if you look up a satyr, picture of a satyr, and you look up goat man, they look
They
the
look
same.
And if you look up the god Pan, they would look the same. Yep.
Yeah.
Greek mythology.
So I find it interesting when you reports of these things in the now in today's age.
Yeah.
But then you look back and you see, well, that looks just like this from a long time ago.
That's true.
And then I start to wonder, is there a connection there?
Yeah. Tells you that a lot of these things that are myth have some truth to them. There's something to them.
Well, back pretty far.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to cut you off right there. We are an hour and 23 minutes in.
Oh.
Well, fine. Be that way. Past
It's
your
later
bedtime?
where you are, Josh. It's later where you are. It's later where you are, and we're
It
jamming
is.
it.
It's later
Oh,
where I am. Well, it's
That's
really
right.
good to see you guys again and talk to
Yeah,
you
y'all-
again.
You too.
Y'all too
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Y'all too.
We absolutely enjoyed hanging out with all you guys in Michigan for sure. And
We did too.
definitely have a good
Well, I
spot
wish I
out
could have
there.
done more instead of hobbling around, but
You still did
You
a
know what?
lot. You did a lot more than somebody else with what was going on with you would have been doing. That's for sure.
yeah,
Absolutely
I mean, I
right.
would have done a lot more. It was just miserable.
Yes, it was. I feel sad for you. If I had had my kit along, I could have helped you out. But I'm going to recommend some peppermint oil, essential oil for any swelling, achy areas. Peppermint essential oil, put it on there. You'll feel lots better. Follow that with an ice pack wrapped in a towel. Don't let it touch your skin.
There you go.
There you go.
But yeah, we had a good time too. Hopefully, we'll get to do that again before.
Yeah,
14.
give our love to your ladies and the little ones.
I sure will.
Yes, Princess
sure
Yeah,
will.
I
Diana.
will.
Sure will. I'll tell her hi.
They're behind me listening.
She might be watching. I don't know.
Hi.
But she probably watched the first half and then fell asleep, knowing her.
Oh, okay.
She goes to bed early, so she'll get in there and watch for a little while, and then by the time I get in there, she's asleep.
Okay. Well, make sure you let her know that we said hello to her and Felicia too.
Certainly will.
Yes, yes. Well, we hope we get to hang out with you guys again sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We'll
for
do it
sure.
again. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for having us on your show. And you guys are coming on our show on Wednesday, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
All right.
Forward to it.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Have a good
Good night.
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 Bye.
Bye.
Hide and seek, reason and rhyme, grand and glorious.